Hey folks, welcome to the new revamped edition of the Chapman's Paint Place podcast. I'm your host, Jim Chapman, and we're going to jump right into it. We're going to talk about why your stucco cracks. This is probably in my world, which is paint coating sales, I would say in the top 10 of things I get asked and issues that I look at for paint coating advice. So I thought it'd be good to kind of start this new revamped podcast, just explaining exactly what causes stucco cracking, how you can fix it, all of those good things. We're going to jump right into it. Um, okay, so here you see some typical cracks that you'll see in stucco over time. You'll see they've got some really small ones. You'll see some staggered cracks there in the corner. Those are heavy, deep cracks. Usually when you see those, that's going to indicate some sort of foundation issue. And you can see in that picture, that house right there is kind of slanted. Almost looks like it's on a hill. But you'll see major cracks like that. If you start seeing those things around your stucco, you need to call a foundation expert immediately. You'll also see in the corner picture a windowsill, and you'll see some cracks running away from that windowsill, and then you'll see some cracks in the other picture that are a little bit, we call these spider cracking. But we're going to cover all of these in detail. So we'll go to the next slide here, and we're going to talk about the types of cracks. First, you've got hairline cracks. Typically, when you see these kind of cracks in your stucco, they're usually around about a 1/16 of an inch wide, or even smaller than that. Typically, when you see this, it's caused by the house settling. When your house settles, especially with new residential, when you move into a house and it's been about a year and a half to 2 years, could even be a shorter time frame than that, that house will start settling, and it's going to cause cracks in stucco. Stucco is a great product in that it's very, very low maintenance. You don't have to do a whole lot with stucco once it's up. Stucco itself is not going to rot, but as you can see, it can crack. Cracks can cause a lot of issues. Water intrusion being probably the main issue with stucco. Wind-driven rain will push through those cracks especially in South Louisiana, where I'm located, and we get a lot of rain. It's almost like a rainforest around here. When that water drives through that stucco, and it gets behind the stucco, it can cause major problems with mildew and mold and all those sorts of things. So when you start seeing cracks in your stucco, don't ignore it. There's simple ways to fix hairline cracks, and we're going to discuss all that in detail as well. But you need to know what you're looking at and what the different types of cracking you'll run into with stucco are. So beyond hairline cracks, you also have spider cracking. That's in those pictures you see there. It's like a spider web. The cracks kind of appear and run away from each other is kind of the best way to describe that. Usually when you see spider cracking, it's a sign of a curing issue with the base coat of the stucco. Please understand, people do not paint stucco. Believe it or not, I've run into a lot of folks that think that's the way stucco is done. Stucco is actually troweled on. Typically, when you build a house, they go in there and they actually trowel the stucco onto the house. It's already tinted 99.9% of the time, and they actually trowel it on with a stucco. For people that aren't in the paint world, think of like a big mud knife. They trowel that stuff on there. But when you see cracking, spider cracking in particular, it's indicative of the stucco drying too fast. Now, what causes the stucco to dry too fast? Typically, there's not enough water in the mix. Stucco and water are mixed together before they trowel it. If they don't put the right mixture in there, that can cause the stucco to dry too fast, and that can cause those spider cracks. Uh, Believe it or not, too much water in the mix can cause spider cracking. So you've really got to have a good mixture there, one way or the other. Um, Stucco was too hot or too cold the day it was applied. If the weather conditions are not indicative of troweling that stucco on, then it can also cause issues with spider cracking. So those are some things that could cause that. There's likely some other things that could cause spider cracking. Those are probably the top three. But no matter what, it's usually a curing issue with the base coat that causes that. Okay, so pattern cracking. We're going to move on to that. And pattern cracking almost looks like the back of an alligator a lot of times, or it'll be horizontal lines that run almost the entire length of the wall. And typically, almost all the time, that's caused by the lathe, which is the wire that they actually trowel the stucco on. It wasn't nailed down correctly, or it wasn't stapled off properly. What's happening is that wire is trying to push the stucco out, and so that will cause that pattern cracking. Bad thing about this, if you have this issue, if you see this on your house, the only way to correct it is you've got to break off the stucco and replace the wire, and that is no fun to say the least. But that's what pattern cracking is. Then we have diagonal cracking. This I see a lot. Typically, it's found around door frames and windows. It's caused by vibration over time. You shut your windows, you shut your doors. Over time of continuously doing that, eventually you're probably going to see some diagonal cracking. You need to really address this, because typically when you see diagonal cracking, what's happening is it's in areas of your house where water can actually intrude into the house easier. So in other words, if you have a crack and it's next to a window, that's something you want to address. You don't want water getting into the inside of your house from the outside via that crack. Also, the more you ignore it and the more you open and shut those doors, it's going to be a lot worse. It really needs to be a priority. I mean, ultimate priority if it's an eighth of an inch wide or more due to the moisture intrusion. You're almost definitely going to get moisture intruding behind that stucco with ease if you do not really take care of that as soon as you see it. Okay, another thing I see a lot is foam trim cracks. Typically it's caused because fiberglass mesh tape was not used on the seams where the two pieces of the trim meet. You got to use mesh tape on that, or you'll see those cracks. Some folks that do stucco don't tape their seams off properly, or they don't use fiberglass mesh tape when taping them. Believe it or not, they exist. You're definitely going to see foam trim cracks if you don't do those things. So I've told you all this bad news about stucco cracking, but I'm going to tell you how to fix it. And there's several solutions. We'll just take them one by one. For hairline cracks, you can typically fix those by applying a 100% acrylic elastomeric coating. I recommend Farrell Calhoun's 2300 Elastomeric. And what you get out of an elastomeric coating that you don't get out of just a exterior flat coating, just a run-of-the-mill 100% acrylic exterior flat, is an elastomeric has an elongation to it, and it will actually fill, those hairline cracks. So you're not just painting a color over it. Elastomerics are designed to be built up heavier, and they will also aid in waterproofing capability much, much better than just an exterior flat paint will do. Now, with spider cracking, I would recommend applying caulking first and then recoating with an elastomeric coating. You can also caulk hairline cracks, but usually they're so small you don't necessarily have to do that. When you apply elastomeric to hairline cracks, it will usually fill those hairline cracks without having to do that. Just make sure if someone sprays an elastomeric coating that they back roll it into the substrate. And if they're a painter, they'll know what back rolling means. We'll cover that in another episode. But anyway, spider cracking, you want to apply caulking and recoat with an elastomeric. Pattern cracking, as we discussed, you're going to have to replace the lathe and restucco the area, and you're going to have to crack that stucco apart in order to replace that lathe, unfortunately. Hopefully, I don't see that very often, thankfully, and hopefully that's not your issue. Diagonal cracking, you may have to use backer rod, which is a foam that you would put inside of the crack if they're thick. And then you're going to want to put stucco patch on there. You can buy that in a tube. You can literally buy stucco that is in a tube that it's a caulk tube. So you can just essentially caulk right in that crack and then proceed with repainting it, recoating that area. You don't necessarily have to use an elastomeric at that point. You could use just 100% acrylic flat, like Farrell Calhoun's 200 line, but you want to use a premium product on that. And if you notice, I'm making a lot of point of saying the word flat. I didn't plan on talking about this, but just so you know, with stucco, you don't want like a gloss on your stucco. And the reason you don't want that is stucco is very imperfect, and every little imperfection in that stucco is going to stand out like a sore thumb if you apply a gloss on there, because what you're doing is gloss finishes reflect light. And so when you get light reflection on the finish of a paint film, all those imperfections are going to stand out. So use a lower sheen. Flats are really good for stucco. For more information on what I talked about today and the products I mentioned, you can go to farrellcalhoun.com. That contains data sheet and information on the 2300 elastomeric coating. So that elastomeric coating I talked about today, you can go to the website at farrellcalhoun.com. You can search for 2300 elastomeric, and it'll pull up it's called a data sheet. It's basically like an advertisement, just tells you the dry time, the application, recommended application methods, and all those sorts of things. And it also has a nice little write-up on it, so you can read up on that high-quality coating from Farrell Calhoun. You can also Google All Pro Stretch. That's the caulking that I mentioned you would want to use with spider cracking, and the reason you want to use something like an All Pro Stretch product is it has elongation properties. I believe it's 800 times elongation. So after it cures and dries, it will actually stretch 800 times its normal size. That's why it's so good for caulking up stucco and spider cracks. Highly recommend that product. And you can go to All Pro's website. Just Google All Pro Stretch. It'll bring you to the website, and you can read more about that. We do sell that in every Farrell Calhoun location. Social media, please follow my Instagram, and you can see the link there. Just go to Instagram, Chapman's Paint Place Podcast. Like my Facebook page, Chapman's Paint Place. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. This link should have brought you to my YouTube channel, but I'm going to link it in the description below. And also the other things I talked about here, like the Farrell Calhoun website and my other social media, all those links are going to be in the description below this video. So you can go to those sites very easily and check out everything I had to say. Please like, comment, subscribe, and follow me on my social media. Takes a little bit of time to do what I do, and I would appreciate any support you could give me relative to just sharing my posts, commenting on them. Tell me what you like, what you don't like. If you have anything you want to hear about on these podcasts, let me know. Email me, post a comment on my social media. I'd love to know what you guys want to talk about. And then finally, to advertise, or if you'd like me to demonstrate a product, just contact me at my number below, or you can email chapmanspaintplace@gmail.com. If you've got an interesting product in the construction field that you would like me to demonstrate, I am a paint coatings specialist. So anything to do with paint coatings, I can certainly demonstrate. I mean, don't send me a bandsaw or anything like that. I'm not a carpenter. But if you'd like me to demonstrate any product in the world of paint coatings, I'd be glad to do so. Just email me. I'll give you some more information. If you'd like to advertise, also shoot me a email or give me a call at the number below. Thank you so much. I appreciate all of y'all listening. I hope y'all learned something about stucco cracking. I know it's not the most interesting subject in the world, but we all have to deal with it, and this is a way I can get out to more people and try to help them. I've got 20 years of paint coatings experience, and I love to help people fix issues and problems and talk about paint. Those of you that know me know I love to talk about paint. So I'll see you next time. I'll keep you posted on everything that's going on, and I appreciate you watching. Thank you.